So without further ado, I will welcome everybody to this presentation. You're in for a treat today because we're going to have a presentation from first off Eric, and then following on from him, Pina. So first off, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Eric. Eric and I go back probably about 14 or 15 years. Last year, he was recognised as one of the top 10 business strategists in Australia to watch by the Australian Business Journal. He actually started his career many years ago with Deloitte Haskins and Sells back in '81. He's had a very long and successful career in leading companies with various roles with companies like Avis, Jaguar, Daimler, Hyundai, just to name a few. And one of the notches on the gun is he was the general manager of a $1.4 billion company. And that was over 14 years ago when 1.4 billion really was 1.4 billion back then. Leveraging on his holistic and strategic approach to things and his ability to be able to coach and advise in a multidisciplinary way, he decided to move away from corporate and into management consultancy. He also wanted to involve with helping small, medium businesses to get top-end advice, but in a way that they could afford it, and give them pragmatic and sustainable ideas that they can apply to their business. You know, you can listen to a lot of people that have a multi-million-dollar budget and they give you ideas as to how they got there. But that doesn't work if you don't have that $1 billion or multi-million dollar, even $100,000 budget. Eric comes from a point of view of looking at the strategy, the financial roadmap, business key drivers, many things to make sure that you can take your business to where you want it to go. And sometimes he might just take your business to somewhere where you never thought it could go. So without further ado, it's my great joy to introduce Eric Chong.
Thank you, George, for your kind introduction. Good afternoon and welcome. I can see quite a lot of attendees attending this webinar. So congratulations, you're actually investing wisely with your time for yourself and your business, attending webinar like this one. I guess COVID-19 certainly hit us very hard from both business perspective and personal perspective. And the game plan for businesses and also our lifestyle has changed accordingly. So today I want to share with you, first of all, why it is critical to review your business strategy and business model under the new normal, how to pragmatically formulate your business sustainability and growth strategy and business model under the new normal, and last but not least, what are the key business areas to review regularly to produce great business outcomes under the new normal. So why it is critical to review your business strategy and business model under the new normal? But there are two key reasons. The first one, when you can be successful under current circumstances, that will allow you to build your personal wealth. This is where Pina will do her presentation. I think it's quite exciting, try to find, what would be one of the best way to build your personal wealth. And secondly, top key reason for business to fail or become stagnant are not having the strategy or plan under the new normal, not having the right business model that align with your business strategy under the new normal, and you are running blind without a clear direction under the new normal. So how to pragmatically formulate your business sustainability and grow your strategy under the new normal? I guess before I go to the first point, the way we should think about business sustainability and growth strategy is that it is a plan that allows your business to have a clear direction or roadmap how to compete in the current market. Not only that, very importantly, how can you sustain your business and grow it under the current circumstances? So interestingly, I guess my background in the old days is blue chips company. For all the large and medium companies, they would have a business strategy. Not just because it's more relevant to them, to a certain extent it is, because they are risking millions and billions of dollars. But it's really the people they employ. They are professionals who understand the great impact of strategy toward the business direction and also the results. And in SME, when I went to SME like 15 years ago, as George mentioned, it's totally different stories. You know, one of the common challenges SME have is lack of resources. So the business owners actually spend a lot of time putting out fires, keep the business going, and don't have the resource, nor to a certain extent, the capability and experience to strategize and give the business the competitive edge by having a strategy. So, with that background, what we have done with our client is make it work with the time constraint and the resources they have. So I want to share with you how to make it work pragmatically. The first point is we need to understand the type of business we want to be. Now, this point here often taken as granted because most of the business is profit driven. If it's profit driven, your strategy and business model would be optimized to produce the best profit and business value for you. But if you are a company with a purpose, you actually have other motive why you form the business. For example, you might want to give certain amount of your revenue to a charity. To give you a real example, business growth and exit specialist, which is our business. If you can see in our vision statement, the bigger picture is we want to make sure that small and medium-sized businesses who are the backbone of the Australian economy to do well. As a result, of course, the Australian economy will perform well. So that is, I guess, the big picture you're going to be aware of, because that will actually affect the direction of your business. Second part, environment. COVID-19, I think, was a big shock to us. There are a lot of things that is changing. Now, for example, the technology trend, political, economic, and social. Can you imagine when COVID-19 hit us, if we didn't have internet or television? I think it would be much, much worse off than we would have been. You think about technology, you can have a meeting through Zoom, you can access all your applications through the cloud, you don't have to go to your office, you can work remotely, and of course you can sign your document online legally as well in a lot of areas. Right? So I think the landscape has changed. Now politically, I think we could see an unprecedented collaboration between the federal and state. I think that was good. Economically, obviously, with all the disruption, right, the business actually suffering a lot, and the government readily pump the economy to make sure it's going. I think they've done a pretty good job there, right? And then the social trend, obviously every one of us much more aware about, our well-being, and obviously, being COVID safe, being more hygienic, wearing masks, washing our hands, social distancing, etc. So we need to understand all these environment changes, how would they impact our business, which is quite critical. That's why if you have the old strategy, just will not work. Now, the third one is understand the demand and buying process of your product and services under the new normal. Buying process, one big thing is obviously, with the internet and online purchase and COVID safe sort of delivery, a lot of businesses will not survive, and we will not be able to get even daily needs, right? The demand obviously has changed as well, from going to restaurant, for example, obviously take away food or fresh food. So there are a lot of changes in there we got to understand. And the fourth point is most important, that our customers, our competitors, would they be the same one? They could be different type of customers that we will be serving. If we have physical restaurant in the old days, maybe good food, very nice environment, really good service. Those are the type of customer coming in. But now, with everything being, order online, if your food is good, reasonable price, and also fast delivery, most probably you can have, different type of customers that would prefer that sort of service. Our competitors, well, this is a big thing. A lot of businesses actually took the opportunity to form a new business under the new normal and be extremely competitive. I'm a seafood lover and I love seafood. So in the old days, I used to go to the local, the Costi, get some seafood there, bring it back and have our dinner. Nowadays, you can go to one of those online provider. You can order seafood before 2, very fresh, very price competitive, nicely packed and delivered. You get it in the afternoon, as fresh as you go out there personally, even go to, the seafood market. So a lot of things has changed. You've got to really understand what and who you are facing with. And then very importantly, in terms of, your internal strengths, you got to understand what they are. It would be easier to build on strength rather than try to improve our weaknesses. So if you consider all those, then you can formulate your new business strategy, right? That will work well. So you've got to consider your strength, address the new environment, customer demand, and competition. Those are the key areas that you need to understand to digest that, so you can formulate your strategy. So how to function your business model for sustainability and growth under the new normal? Now, once you understand your key strategy to move forward in servicing your target market or customer, I would suggest that Michael Porter's generic strategies, 3 generic strategies, either being cost leadership or differentiate yourself, or focus, which is niching. Example of focus could be, by gender, by age group, by nationality. So once you understand that, you got to formulate the relevant business model covering each key aspect of your business. They are product and services, marketing, sales, operation, finance, customer service, HR, and leadership. Just give you an example. When your strategy is focused on differentiation, obviously you want to make sure one of these aspects you can differentiate from your competitors. However, the more aspect you can differentiate from your competitors, the stronger your strategy and business model would be. For example, your product or services. If you want to differentiate based on product and services, is there a gap there under the new normal that you can pick your product or services and fulfill the demands and the needs in the area? So what about marketing? Are you going to differentiate your marketing as well? Are you going to do something a bit different in the marketing area? Are you going to be more holistic? Sales. We know it very well. There are a lot of development now, even pre-COVID. For example, in the real estate industry, now you can rent and buy. Right? In a way, it's a sales process to get you in, and it's also quite smart with differentiation into more financial requirement, because they only need 1 or 2% as the deposit rather than common maybe 15 to 20%. So there is another area. Operation of Of course, you've got to have a look at it. How are you going to differentiate yourself? Or how are you going to support the differentiation in terms of your product and services? Finance is a big area, obviously. A lot of big companies now, they are competing some product there, either interest-free credit card or even talking about buy now pay later. But in terms of your own business, are you going to have some sort of flexibility there different from your competitors? Quite important. Customer service, there's a big area. An area certainly you can think of how can you differentiate yourself. And the last two part is really more the way we need to have the type of people working within the organization to make the strategy and business work, and the type of leadership we need to have so we can motivate them and share our strategy and our model to make it work for the business. So then what? I guess the success is in the implementation. All of us know that. What are the key business areas to review regularly for better business outcome under the new normal? Okay, so there are actually a few components here that started to raise its prominence under the current situation, environment. So with the dynamic changes, especially in government regulation reacting to COVID-19, etc., the new technology being introduced, we got to scan the environment and make the appropriate investment and adapt to it if we want to make sure that we are ahead of the curve. Secondly, leadership and management. More than ever, having the right leadership and the right management, not only to move forward with the strategy and business model, more getting people to be happy to work with us and perform. That is actually quite critical. A lot of us would have heard, the potential disaster with the Great Resignation in 2022. Luckily in Australia, maybe not to a great extent, but certainly I think human resources are scarce at the moment, and it's an employees market. We got to understand how to retain them, how to motivate them, and how to recruit new people. So go back to the resources, the structure, the skill set could be different, all depend our new strategy, business model. We need to basically review that regularly, make sure that the right resources being deployed. One interesting thing, obviously, few of our clients, we started to have a look at global talent in certain areas because it's actually quite good and quite competitive. So we can, complement them with our traditional human resources sources and make it work. Financial key driver, most probably nothing has changed, but one thing that is most critical at this time is the cash flow. Revenue, key driver is good, profitable is good, but cash flow is a stumbling block because with our clients and all that, especially if you do B2B, you never know who could be in trouble. So you got to have a close eyes to your cash flow and manage it accordingly. And customer satisfaction, we don't have to say anything. Nowadays, virtually a 5-star rating is very important. We got to manage that. Also need to manage the focus rating. We know we saw quite a bit of complaint that they are not their customer, but they put in 1-star rating just to bring the competitors down. How do we manage that? And then obviously, traditional area you got to review, is the marketing working? Is the sales working? Is the operation met into the strategy and business model? So those are quite a lot of areas because I'm actually running out of time. We are running a tight schedule. We are here to work with SME to make them sustainable, grow, and can exit with a desired outcome. So thank you for listening. You are most welcome to have a look at some of the information on our website. That is www.bges.co, Or if you want to contact me direct, more than welcome. Certainly, I will respond to your query. eric@bges.co. So thank you. I think I'm right on time, and without further ado, I'll pass it back to George. Thank you, George.
Thank you very much for that, Eric. And as I let Jason and Pina sort out a few things so that Pina can present her presentation, thank you again for covering a range of topics into one subject. One of the points that Eric was making was people changing, and that if you haven't heard about it, I don't know where you've been for the last couple of years. One of the great success stories of COVID was a gin manufacturer that lost all his business when they shut all the pubs and clubs. And so he converted the business into a hand sanitizing manufacturer. And the business is actually making more money as a hand sanitizing manufacturer than he was in the days of producing a bespoke gin. So a lot more on that down the track. Folks, we have this down as being running through to 1 o'clock. Numbers of us are able to stick around a bit longer. So if there's other questions and there's more information that you'd like to have access to, we won't actually boot everybody out at 1 o'clock. We understand time is precious. We try to keep the main presentation tight, but don't worry, if you don't answer your question within this period of time, you can certainly follow up with us and we'll certainly try to answer it. So now this brings us to our next presentation, and this is from the lovely Pina Brandy. Pina was born in Italy and at the age of 10 moved to Brazil. So if you think about that, European down to third world country. She was there for about 16 years and then decided that she would try something different. She took a giant leap of faith, luckily for us, and she chose in 2008 to come to Australia and see what the world's about on this side. Pina is a strategist, she is a thinker, and she is a person that doesn't just do things because everybody else says it's a good idea. She thinks about what she's doing. So even in that move, her first year was all about focusing on getting her visa situation stable. Once she did that, and she decided that she wanted to work with and help people, she decided that she had to focus on making English more of her first language than necessarily her third language. And so she went about improving her English skills. She went and joined places like Toastmasters, where she's won a number of awards. Thus is her commitment to this sort of thing. She's also been involved in a number of networking groups that I'm aware of, and she's been nominated as the most valuable participant in a variety of groups and chapters within those networks. Her passion is to help people by adding value, sharing her own property story, educating people, and explaining to them the value of setting goals, and especially financial ones. The thing I love about Pina is that when I listen to her present, I not only learn about the topic she's presenting on, but she always gives me some richness of a new way of looking at things. And I got that from her just recently about statistics and how you should look at them. You know, at age 66, I've known a lot of other people that are referred to as a buyer's agent or a property investment agent. I've only known Pina for a little over a year now. Because of the way she does her business, because of the way she cares for people, Pina is not only a friend of mine, she's my go-to person for this area of business and advice. It is my great honour to introduce Pina Brandy.
Oh, thank you, George. I really appreciate your introduction. That was lovely. And I hope to make you proud. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here and taking your lunchtime with me. And I thought I'll make this interesting. And as you all know, the news are always terrible. So I thought I'll share with you some more terrible news. And without further ado, I want to share with you first what's actually happening. And so in January, this was the latest from CoreLogic, the latest numbers from CoreLogic. And as you can see, everything is looking beautiful and positive. However, on the 8th of February, there was a piece of news from NAB where it says that unfortunately house prices will plunge by 11%. Now, this is very scary, especially if you just got into the market. Now, why does that sound so familiar to me? So I want to show some other piece of news. And if you pay attention to this other piece of news, these are pieces of news that this is from 2012, this is from 2014, this other one is from 2015. And they all talk about the same thing. They all talk about 10, 20% fall, the Australian bubble will burst. And again, 2016, same thing. Like we're just going down. And can you see there is a trend? It's usually at the beginning of the year when there is always like, first, there is a softening in the market in December. Well, guess what? It's Christmas, it's holiday, and the banks don't process loans as fast anymore. The lawyers and the conveyancers go on holiday to spend with the family. That's why there's a softening in the market. There's not too many listings. There's nothing to do with the properties, just like people actually want to enjoy family. And we continue. Then I don't know if you guys remember, but in 2018, we had a whole hour of despair where people told, the 60 Minutes told people that we were going to have 40% house fall. Now, can you imagine how frustrating that must be? Because I work 24/7 in property. Now, a normal person, a normal business owner, a normal mom and dad, they take their news and their information from this. So how can they possibly feel confident that they should take their so precious money or whatever liquidity they finally have in their business and put it into a market that most likely will lose them 40%? Now, and look, this is continuous, guys. Again, February, like we are just going to be like the property market is just looking horrendous. Now, again, we have an offender here, CBA, where in May 2020, we were full on COVID. It was uncertainty everywhere. No one knew what was going to happen. The world is closed for business. And CBA comes out saying to people, the prices could fall by 32%. Well, in that same year, I think Rami can help me with that, CBA gave millions of dollars away in loans. I find that very interesting that a bank, they will give money to a failing business. Now, I wanted to make this even better for you, and I put all this in a one graph snapshot. So this is what actually happened, and this is what the media reported. This is by how much they were wrong. And it gets me really frustrated because unfortunately, I talk to customers and business owners that come to me and they use this as their decision making, not what I'm going to tell them and not the graph I'm going to show them. Now, with this same piece of news, I want to show you that during that same period of time, that quarter, instead of 32%, yes, we had a softening of the market of less than 1%. And then people realized that that wasn't going to happen. And this is what I base my numbers and my advice on this, not on what CBA thinks is going to happen. Now, nationally, property prices went up by 22.2%. That's talking November to November. And this is how the breakdown it is. But for me, the most important piece of news at the moment, especially for those ones that are still looking into getting to the market, they might not have that much liquidity anymore, and they still want to invest in an asset-based item like property. This. The national gap between housing units, it's by 38%. That does not mean that units did not go up in price. That just means that houses went up higher and faster. But usually when this happens, people get bought out of the market. So they just can't afford it anymore. So they'll start looking somewhere else. Yesterday, I received this newsletter from CoLogic, and I thought I'll just add it in here. People think that units don't go up in price. Here you go. Just Sydney units rose by 15.4%. Now, you might have a unit in some lost place. I'm not going to mention any suburb, but it's an old unit, a unit that's maybe 50 to 60 years old, falling apart. And you say, well, my unit didn't go up. So, well, these are medium numbers, and these will take in consideration like blue chip suburbs. These will take consideration 3-bedroom units that owner occupier want to live. These will take in consideration units that will replace a home that they can't afford anymore. And this is where the market is, a different type of market, not any type of units, like everything in life. It's not because I'm going to buy a car, that car is going to make me money in the future. Now, I want to bring an example to you. Now, let's imagine you're a business owner or you're a mom and dad, and you have seen this and you're like, great, I love it. Now, you're in May 2020, you have $250,000 in deposit. You want to buy a $1 million home. And of course, you have to take in consideration stamp duty that a lot of people forget. It's not because you're a first home buyer that you're not going to pay, especially if you're looking at a $1 million home. Now, this 250, it's more than enough to cover for 20% of your loan plus stamp duty. But you saw CBA telling you that the prices will fall, so you just wait. Why? Because if you wait, you're going to pay the same, you're going to get the same house for less money. However, now you realize that that didn't happen, and that same house will cost you much, much more. Now, why no one is accountable to that? That for me, it's sad. That's what upsets me the most, is that people can go out there and put whatever they want on the news, but they don't see what this causes on people, and they just miss out on big opportunities. Now, what I look at is this. This is the whole property, all sorts of residential dwellings. This is combined from 2011 to 2021. We look at a trend, and the trend, it's up. If you're in business, you never know when you're going to get here. You wish you had a crystal ball that would tell you now it's the time to buy, or here's the time to buy, but you don't. So you just have to trust the trend and trust the market. But you know, Pina, interest rates are going to go up now, and that's what's really going to put a pause in the market. Okay, let's have a look. This is 50 years of interest rates for you. The trend is the other way around. Yes, it might go 1%, 2% up, but talk to some people, and George will probably know, and Eric, that maybe when they bought their first property, they were paying even 17% in interest rates. We, in our lifetime, will never experience anything like that. Well, what about population? This is the most important graph. Why? Australia is growing. People are coming. You want it or not. Why? Australia is amazing. It's a beautiful country. Look at me. If you look at half of the people in this room, they're probably foreigners. And we come here because it's the land of opportunity, and this will not stop. Now, unfortunately, there is not enough housing for everybody. And that's where the opportunity as a business owner is for cash flow. Now, I want to share with you that the government of New South Wales is already planning for 2061. And the reason why this is important for me is because this report is not a nice one. because it shows people that if you're not planning for your retirement, you're going to have less and less people helping you retire. People usually say, I'm scared, I'm terrified of investing in property and getting it wrong. I can't sleep at night thinking if I have to rely on a pension. Think on the worst case scenario. Think that your property will never go up in price. What's the only thing that gets readjusted with inflation? You wanting it or not? Your rent, not your pension. So think bigger. Borders are reopening. I highly encourage you to search this on YouTube and watch it. It's a very interesting documentary from ABC, where they state that for every 3 migrants, we need 1 extra home. Well, this is how many people we're getting in the next years. And guess what? There's not enough housing for all these people. We need more buildings, we need more houses. There's not even close to the approvals to receive this many people. Again, you're looking for cash flow. You have some extra equity in your business or in your house. This is the time for you to jump on opportunity and wait. Rents will go up. This is where your liquidity is going to be. This is where your cash flow is going to come from. Once these people come in, they're going to need to rent places. And guess what? You don't wait until people are here and then you realize rents are going up and then you try to buy. You look in advance and you prepare for that. And then once they're here, then you can charge the rent you want and the cash flow you want. So the demand for rental homes can be expected to continue to increase in 2022, especially if you take in consideration the returns of high levels of migration. This is where the big opportunity is, because as I showed you in the previous graph, with time, property prices will always go up. But if you're a business and you're looking for your cash flow and you need cash flow to survive, you need rents, that's where you're going to get those, by purchasing multiple properties and using your cash flow from there. Remember, guys, new migrants, they come from crowded cities, Rome, London. They don't want a house. They know they can't afford a house. They come in here, they want to stay in a unit, they want to stay in the CBD, they want to stay where everything is. New migrants, they just want to live. After they stay here, they learn the things and they realize where they want to be. But originally, they're going to pay a lot of money to stay in the big cities or close to the beach. Property is a long-term strategy. It's about timing the market. It's impossible to time the market. Thank you, guys. Back to you, George.
Thank you, Pina. And I trust that people listening to your presentation see the value in you that I saw from the first time I heard you speak. Just to your point about property and investments and things like that, I've spent a lot of time consulting with companies in and around Parramatta, and I was working with Parramatta Council for a number of years as a consultant when they were going through growth and development. And a lot of people were saying to me, oh, all these units that they're building, the place is overcrowded, they'll all be empty. Well, they're not all empty and rents keep going up. They're not all empty, we're building more and it's still not enough. Folks, if you're thinking about investment in property and you don't talk to Pina, I think that's a bit like getting in a car and not bothering to check if you've got a good supply of petrol. That's my tuppence worth. Eric, I will pass back over to you and allow you to run your show.
Thank you, George. Thank you, Pina, for the excellent and very informative presentation indeed. I just want to introduce the panelists for this webinar. We have George Mafros, Associate Partner at Business Growth and Exit Specialist in Sales, Marketing and Intellectual Property. We have Ronell Wilson, Partner at CIP Accountants and Advisors, and Jason Chung, Practice Manager and License Conveyancer at MLC Lawyers, Rami Georges, Director Prime Loans, and last but not least, Milind Kulkarni, Digital Transformation Leader at Smarta Information Systems. So once again, welcome and thanks for joining us as a panelist. I think one of the great idea that we have in this webinar is having diverse panelists that can share their knowledge and experience from a different perspective. So we actually have quite a bit of attendees. I got quite a bit of questions here. I just have a look at the screen and go through them. The first question is, given the low interest rate for borrowers, is negative gearing a property purchase still a worthwhile wealth creation and tax minimization strategy? Well, that is actually quite an interesting question. So most probably, Ronelle, do you want to address that?
Oh, yes, Eric. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, negative gearing still is a very good investment strategy and tax minimization strategy, even though interest rates are low, and even if they do go up, because you can offset all the expenses and income. And if you have a negative position, that can come off your other taxable income. So that's still very relevant. And also, one thing to remember with negative gearing is that particularly if you get a newish property or new property, you can get significant depreciation deductions as well. So even though your interest deductions might not be great, that's okay, because it probably means you can borrow more because your capacity is better. But there are other deductions that you can claim. So depreciation is a good one. We see a lot of good deductions on newer properties there, and all of the other types of holding costs that you've got with property. So there's no talk that we can see that any of the political parties want to get rid of negative gearing. There has been talk in the past, but nothing on the table at the moment. It's a bit unpopular. So yeah, it certainly is a good strategy.
Very good, thank you. We actually got quite a bit of questions. So what I'll do is I'll pick up a question that would be relevant to each of the panel. At least you can hear what they say. And then with the time allowed, we go to the rest of the question. Okay, I'll pick this one as the second question. What is the best way to protect you legally when purchasing a property? Most probably that would be in your alley, Jason.
Yeah, look, I think it's a common question I get from a lot of clients when they're looking to buy a property. You know, how can I protect myself? What do I need to look out for? What are the pitfalls? And I think the best way you can get ahead of any legal issues is by getting a copy of the contract to your legal representative as early as you can. So by doing that and allowing them to have the time to review the contents of the contract, what you're trying to achieve, and work with the other people and stakeholders in the process, like Pina, like Rami, like Ronelle, and looking at a holistic approach to protecting your interests, I think you can get the best result in the end. Often people come to me and they say, oh, look, I want to do this. Jason, you've got all the answers. Ultimately, I can look at your matter from a legal perspective, but working with buyer's agents, with real estate agents, accountants, and brokers together with a holistic view of what you want to do will get you the best result. So it's not a one-pronged thing. You know, no one has all the answers, but if you can work together with some good practitioners, you'll usually get a really good result.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you. Well, this is a good one. Is there a good strategy to get the best loan? Who want to answer that, Rami?
Yeah, that's a very big question, very broad, and there's so many ways that I can address this, but I'll try to sum it up very quickly. Obviously, when it comes to a loan, I'm assuming that we're talking specifically about a home loan in this situation, not general finance. But absolutely. I mean, look, first things first, as a broker, what we do at Prime Loans, we make sure that a customer does fill out a client information document that kind of asks them about all their questions in regards to their assets, liabilities, And most importantly, it kind of asks the question about what are their main requirements and objectives in the loan or end goal on what they're trying to achieve. So things like calculations that we go through, such as funding position, so costs associated with stamp duty, deposit, legal fees, and all of the above, kind of giving the customer an overview of what funds would be required, what stuff like lender's mortgage insurance will include, and the amount that it would be at. Obviously, we run questionnaires, questionnaires being, what is your retirement age? Is the loan that you're going to be addressing over the next 30 years, is that going to reach your statutory retirement declaration age? If it does, what is your retirement plan? So obviously we take stuff on board like, how will you repay the home loan? Will it be from a lump sum savings? Will it be from investments? There are so many ways to speak about, retirement plans. Obviously living expenses, asking questions like, are you willing to close any existing liabilities like credit cards or change your style of living in regards to living expenses? And of course, stuff like negative gearing, like Ronelle addressed earlier. I mean, that's stuff that we have to take in consideration. Are they going to be, do they have the goal of paying it off earlier? Do they have the goal of, having tenants in there as soon as possible? So there's a number of ways that we look at stuff in regards to addressing those answers. But mainly it's about what their requirements and objectives are. And then again, picking a specific lender, interest rate, product that kind of addresses those as well. So if they want to pay off the loan early, as soon as possible, I wouldn't put them on a fixed product necessarily. It'd be more so like a variable with an offset account, providing the strategy to pay it off as soon as possible. And the list goes on and on. So absolutely, there's definitely strategies and ways to address people's loans and what they're trying to achieve and what the end goal is for the purchase.
Wow, certainly a lot of areas need to be considered there. Yeah, thanks for that. Pina, you want to make any comment in regard to strategy to get the best loan sort of things?
I think to get the best loan would be Rami's. I would say is just preparing, really preparing, and be prepared. What I find that a lot of people just go shopping without knowing how much money they have in their pocket, and they just, I don't know how, they just take numbers out of their heads. So it's important that you talk to a finance person before you actually go shopping, so you don't get hit with a surprise at the end.
And Eric, that's why really quickly, that's why it's great to have the both of us in the same room in front of the client. We've done it before. It's very important to kind of address both, because Pina always emphasizes, and so do I, do not shop for a property until you have been pre-approved. And that is the underlying rule. The last thing you want is people purchasing a property, they get emotionally attached, figure out they can't borrow as much as they would have liked to, and now they're stuck in a bit of a situation. So spot on, yeah. Absolutely,
absolutely. All right, I'm going to switch to some business question here. Well, this is actually quite wide. What trend do you see in 2022 in the technology areas? I'm pretty sure George and I will have different answers. And we have Milin there. Milin, you are really in the technology area. Do you want to share with us? Most of your word is stronger than ours.
No, so basically you guys have got expertise from the business point of view, and from when I look into it from the technology point of view. So from technology, what I'm seeing is the trend which is coming up is AI, artificial intelligence, which is picking up a lot in the market. And it is not like just for the bigger company as well. Like if you're thinking about, to use artificial intelligence, I have to be Coles or I should have $1 billion thing. No, it is not like that. A small business, 2 people company can also make use of artificial intelligence. So there are a lot of software programs which are coming up, very easy to use it. What it does is it look into your data and it can suggest you something on which you can work on. So as you mentioned, Eric, earlier about talking about the cost leadership, about differentiation. So for the type of differentiation, what these AI tools can do is find it out, what type of customers you are getting, what type of sales you are doing, and it can suggest you something which these people can then look into it, they can discuss with you and proceed further with it. Other thing which is happening is in 2022 a lot, and I talked about it initially when I started the session, is the mainly security is becoming a quite big issue. And initially, like end of the last year, you might have seen bigger company have got hit by the people are trying to break in there. But now that is happening with the smaller business as well. So I would like, I don't know how much I can talk about it, but the main thing is make sure that do not use your date of birth, do not use your your name, or like do not share anything on the Facebook which you use as a password. See, there are a lot of techniques that people use to make you find it out about you, and they will try to break it into your thing. And for small business, if the data is encrypted, and then if you do not have a backup, which is very common in the small business, it becomes too much difficult for small business to survive. So the security and AI, if you look into it, I think like you will be quite good doing on it. George, from your point of view, you want to add up anything there from the business sales point of view?
A couple of things on it, Milin. Number one, technology should be helping to support business management. It should never be driving your business strategy. So your strategy has to be a complete thing, and your sales stay the same. Whether you're face-to-face or whether you're online or whether you're using AI or whether you're doing whatever, if you haven't got the right product for the right market, you're in the wrong place. So you can have the great technology, but you've still got to understand your basic business. The other thing in technology is, as we grow technology and as we have more people being able to work in remote areas, we're actually running the risk of going back to what Eric and I grew up with in our early days of business coaching, information silos. But what used to happen was everybody was in a 16-story building and the first floor never spoke to the 16th. What you have now is everybody's in 16 different locations. And the area that we run the risk of losing is what I call coffee machine education. When I was a young bloke, many a time I was grabbing a cup of coffee and one of the senior people would explain to me what just happened in that meeting or what the boss was trying to say. As I grew up in businesses, I was able to educate younger people while we're having a cup of coffee at the coffee machine. I can't go and visit 16 houses to do that. So think about what you're going to do. And if you move to technology, make sure it's working on your strategy. You don't become part of it. Over to you, Eric.
Yes, excellent comment indeed. Thanks for sharing, Milin. I guess from my perspective, I believe what would be useful for businesses at the moment, I'm pretty sure there are quite a lot of development, is the collaboration tool. I think, you know, with the globalization of talent acquisition and you know, open up the way we do things and working from home hybrid model, internationalization of HR, I think that area is big. The other thing has been big. I'm totally in agreement, you know, with you, Milin. But on top of that, I think, you know, data analytics certainly is a big thing. I think, especially, you know, if you know, go into, you know, more deeper information about your customers and even your competitors, that would be, you know, quite useful there. Okay, let's move on.
Eric, sorry to interrupt you. So I don't know what I've done here. I saw there was a question from Jan Gonzalez, and I thought I could actually type the answer, but for some reason when it's answered. So do you mind if I just answer that question? Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
So the question is, will the government at any stage stop negative gearing of old properties and only apply it to brand new properties? Well, Jan, we can't predict what the government will do or will not do. And regarding to negative gearing, I think it shouldn't be a strategy, because you don't want to pay $1 to get 30 cents. You want to make money. So negative gearing is something should help you build your wealth for eventually cash flow and making money. So I guess that's where you should base your property journey on. It's in making money and not getting 30 cents back from the government. And I hope Ronel doesn't disagree with me.
All right.
No, I don't disagree with you on that. It's just that the negative gearing helps with the cost of the cash flow of having the property. So that's really the main advantage there, and offsetting any losses against other taxable income. So it reduces your out-of-pocket expenses. So Yeah, we haven't heard anything in the negative gearing space for a while now. Hopefully we won't.
Yes, I am quite mindful it's 1 o'clock now, but looks like virtually all the attendees still online. We got a few more questions here. So I understand that some of you got to leave. Once again, appreciate your attendance. If you got any queries, please contact us. More than happy to respond. And if I can continue with some of the queries here, it says, how important is it to review your business strategy and business model? And how often should it be reviewed to see if company strategy or model needs to be tweaked or even completely revamped? Okay, let me answer that first. I'm pretty sure the rest of you will jump in there. The way we look at strategy now is very different, say, from 10 or 20 years ago. In the old days, strategy, you do it, once a year. It's always, for the long term, right? But what happened with the dynamic changes in our environment is quite often strategies being reviewed as major event occur. So you analyze what is the impact of that major event. For example, I'm actually talking about, COVID-19 now, which is one of the biggest event ever, right? So you got to review your strategy regardless. Now, in terms of business model, which is the next layer of a clear direction for your business under each area of your business, that one, they're actually much more volatile. In fact, our client, we actually advise that either as a major thing occur, or actually at least half yearly now. And then the focus is not purely what would happen in the long term. We actually have to look at short and medium term. So the whole, thinking about business strategy has evolved quite a lot from that perspective. I open it to the floor. Anybody want to jump in? George, please.
Yeah, I always find this an interesting thing. Nobody, hopefully, in this group would ever jump into a car and start to go somewhere without a steering wheel. Nobody would jump onto a push bike, let alone a motorbike, without a handlebar. And even if you did, as you start to go along, you make little changes here and there. You don't actually just turn the steering wheel and head that direction, and then when you bump into something, you're going to change. And yet people want to go into a business and not have the steering wheel or the handlebar. A strategic plan for your business and for your life is your steering wheel or your handlebars. So you're not going to get into a car without the steering wheel. Don't get into business and life without the strategic plan.
That was really great analogy, George. Love it.
Right. And
you can steal it, just notify people that it came from me.
Should we have a big flashing light, on top of your thing there? Any other comments from the panel? I think we will allow maybe 1 or 2 more questions, and then, I think we got to conclude this webinar. Any other further question, from the audience, we will address that. But we have covered most of the questions from the audience so far. Jason, I think, from your perspective, especially in marketing and online social media, your strategies there, at the other hat that you are wearing, and what is your thought in there? Like, how often should you review it, and what is the best practice at the moment? Is it horses for courses, or what do you think?
I think with fast-moving environments like digital marketing, you have to stay on top of things regularly. I think you need to analyze all the data that you're able to get, and sharpen your tools as you go along, trying and testing different things. So with that in mind, it's really important as a business owner to stay on top of as much as you can and just try different things and see how they work from a success standpoint, and then continue to tweak those. So if you're doing a bit of digital advertising on Google Ads, Facebook, LinkedIn, try things and then measure the success of them. That's what's going to give you good results, by looking at what actually works and the real-time results that you get and putting more money and effort into those things. I think we will all know as business owners that seeing real-time results brings a lot of joy, and everyone that runs a business is a marketer in a way. You know, all of the people here and all the people that are attending this will have had some sort of involvement with a marketing or online marketing type of event. So really, you have to be quite agile in dealing with these things. You can't just set and forget and look at it again next year. By next year, you'll have a million new changes to the environment. You know, one of the notable things that you may have seen recently is Apple and the way that they've changed their privacy, which has hugely impacted digital marketing. It's now the ability for people to opt out of tracking, which from a digital marketing and business marketing perspective is pretty huge. You know, the way that the results have been coming in since that change by Apple has really changed and shaken up the marketplace. So that's just one aspect of things. If you set your digital marketing or any type of marketing activities once a year, by the next year, it'd be far outdated.
100%, 100%. George, you're a marketing sales guru. What was your thought there?
Well, carrying on from my earlier analogy, if you're on a straight road, you're probably not making very many adjustments. If you're on a rough road or a curving road, up hills and down hills, you make a lot of adjustments. Marketing is exactly the same. If you're not looking at what's ahead of you and making little adjustments here and there, then you're just going to run into something, and then it's going to get horrible. It's just going to get horrible. The other thing is, in your sales and your marketing, are you actually building the business for you, or are you building the business to sell it to somebody? I'm 66 years of age. I'm developing businesses and business strategies that I can sell that on to somebody when I want to step back and do other things. When I was 46 years of age, I wanted to build a business that I wanted to stay in and work in. So think about it. Are you building this for you, or are you building it for somebody else? Many, many people have made a lot of money starting off in the tech industry and the online industry, building a website on the basis of Google or somebody like them will buy them in 5 years' time. So it's not the business you want. You need to, as Eric said at the very beginning, if you're not looking at the new norm and where it fits into you, what have you got?
Yeah, 100%. I think one thing that is quite interesting is that, you know, you got the strategy, you got the business model. As I said, you know, what you got to focus on is the regular review. This is what we are talking about. I just got a last question coming through. I just want to share with all of you, if anybody can answer that. It says, Eric, you have mentioned HR governance, people and leadership as a high priority focus for your clients. How do you advise SME in terms of setting up compliant and effective HR system? And more importantly, how do they manage their fixed costs, considering staffing and wages are probably the biggest cost? New, as you mentioned, most SME are horribly under-resourced. So any one of you want to answer this question, or do you want me to jump in?
Jason, it says there that you wanted to answer it.
Okay, well, I just lost the question. Never mind. Okay, got it here. Okay, so let me try to answer them in parts. Hopefully that will give you the answer, Dominique. So talking about HR governance, people and leadership as high priority focus, and of course it is now, because without the right, you know, leadership and the HR governance, basically you are going to fall apart. There are much more movement now in terms of people suddenly realize, after or during the COVID year, I don't like my job anymore. I actually have an option. Life is not about, being paid and forced to do something. Now, that is a big issue that, the HR need to think about. And, certainly we can, go through with them, what can be done as well, right? But the other part of your question is, how do you advise SME in terms of setting up compliant and effective HR system? Now, that is a big question, because when we are talking about compliant HR system, I think it's changing because of the hybrid environment, in terms of the software they might need to use. A lot of them, without regulation, they just use whatever software they want rather than corporate one. So with SME, it's actually quite loose and not structured. Each one of them, they think they are the IT guy. They just use whatever software they want. So I think the compliant and the effective HR system is actually quite fluid now. And what we tend to do is having a look at the companies just being set up in the last few years. The reason is that they are much more aware of the trend and environment changes in the business, and their software and their system normally will be more suited with the current environment. That is my advice, because the older one, well established, but really still using the old mindset in terms of how the compliance and the system should work. Okay. Now,
Eric, can I just jump in on that?
Yep.
So when the other side of this is when we're advising people, whether it's Renelle as an accountant or Eric from business coaching strategy, me from marketing, et cetera, even Rami and Pina and Melinda and Jason, we will give advice in the areas that we are legally and competently able to give advice in. Now, for HR compliance and those sorts of areas, my opinion, not my legal advice, but my opinion to people would be to make sure that you're on top of all of that and to find a good professional company that does all of that stuff day in, day out. We can give you a lead as to what you should be looking for, but you need companies to be able to back themselves up by knowing that and doing that. I can give somebody my knowledge based on my business experience on getting a home loan. Rami is the one that gives them the legal advice because he does it day in, day out. And so, I mean, you've got companies like EmploySure that work with people and develop the whole process from start to finish. And those sorts of areas are things that if you think a professional's expensive, when you deal with an amateur, you'll really see what it can cost you.
Yeah, George, there is certainly a good comment. Obviously, there are quite a bit of specialists out there in that area. But I guess in terms of the business practice and all that, I think we just got to be mindful that the new normal is different from what happened before. But most of this company, for example, EmploySure, because they are so huge, they got a lot of money invested in terms of compliance and what is happening. I'll be surprised if they are not up to date with all these things and what is happening out there. Now, like our role as an advisor, more alerting them to what should you look at if you want to engage anybody doing that. And they got to be aware of what has happened, since 2 years ago, and make sure they get the right people working with them, and make sure that the organization has the resources to keep up to date and have a look at those areas properly. So in terms of managing the fixed costs, or HR costs, the way we have looked at it, we actually have to look at the HR requirement very differently now. We actually have looked at the combination of employee contractors locally within Australia and external to Australia. and getting the right mix, because one of the challenge we have is the training required, and also how to retain those people effectively if all they want to do is very different. So thanks for that question there. I think we are running out of time. Is there any comment from the team? I'm actually quite appreciative that we still got quite a bit of attendees still there, but I think it's 1:50 now, really need to go. Anybody would like to make the last comment there?
I just want to say, I think the people that attended would see a lot of value. Excellent presentation from Eric and Pina. And absolutely from Pina's point of view, I mean, don't listen to the news, listen to the experts, pretty much.
Very good, thank you. All right, thank you all. Thanks for all your participation, especially for the attendees. Thanks for the patience. I think they are hanging in there. Obviously, it has quite a lot of value to them. We shall meet again in the next valuable webinar that we have. Thank you. See you all.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye.